Good evening, everyone. I'm Jack Creighton. I'm privileged to be chairman of the Town of Cohasset Select Board. We're here tonight to hear from the committee appointed by the Select Board to examine what to do with our town hall. They were given a charge to renovate the existing building, which is where we are now, and the annex to basically knock that down and replace this. This is a process that goes back in excess of 10 years. We have been struggling on what to do with that. We've had several committees. We've had votes that almost passed and didn't pass. Whatever happens in the town hall, so everybody knows, come to town meeting on Monday. It will be discussed. You'll have a chance to vote at town meeting. And if the vote is affirmative, then it will go on the ballot. So this is democracy in action. Phil Lair is the chairman. He'll introduce the members here. I want everybody to know the work that they have done, the unbelievable hours. They're all skilled in their field. We've employed a series of professionals. So the facts and figures that will be presented tonight have been vetted. They haven't been pulled out of the air. This is an important discussion. I ask you to listen to them carefully. Remember, these are volunteers and they've done a very, very good job. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chairman Phil Lair. I will be here most of the time. We have another event going on the other side of town, so I'm going to be back and forth. But really, this is the show of the committee and the consultants, and most importantly, the citizens of this great town of Cohasset. Phil.
Thank you, Jack. I'm told I got to sit here and stay within the camera lane, so excuse me if I don't stand up. So yeah, I'd like to introduce our committee. We have a couple of people that are not here. Josiah Stevenson is on the committee. He may come in a little bit later. Josiah is an architect. It's good to know the background of some of these people on the committee to know the diverse professionalism that we have been able to tap into. Wayne Sawchuk is also on the committee. He couldn't make it tonight. Wayne, as you know, is a business owner and a developer and builder and so forth. So he comes from a pretty diverse background. I have Mark Cameron down on the far end here. Mark is in the construction business. And Mark has been very valuable with his knowledge to be able to help us with both the new build and the old building, knows the codes and so forth. And that's been extremely helpful. Carol, next to him is Carolyn Coffey. Carolyn is have a background in business and finance. She's been great with the numbers, very helpful with helping us fine tune the numbers and make sure that they're correct. Next to Carolyn is Tucker Meehan. Tucker is from a business background. He's helping run a business right now, and he's been great with social media as well. So we've tapped into that a little bit. And then on the end here is Garrett Lubitz, and Garrett is a lawyer. He's very talented, articulate, and he's a good speaker. He's been brought a lot to the table as well. I do want to mention that we lost a member last year. Sam Wakeman was a very helpful member of this. He was a business owner, as we know, and he was on capital committee, capital budget committee for a number of years as well. So we do miss him. I'm Phil Lair. This is the third building on the historic common that I've worked on. It goes back to me being on the building committee. We had 2,000 square feet to the church next door. And then across the street at the community center, I was on the board over there. And I was, the project I was in command of was the addition on the right-hand side with the fountain to the back of you, which was the 30 by 30 addition for the elderly. So that was the senior center before Wilcott was built. That was an entire sprinkler system and remodeling of the kitchen as well as a function room for the senior citizens. And then I'm back over here at the church for the past 7 years. I've been chairman of the trustees, where we've done a number of projects over there too. So I really enjoy working on historic buildings. And I don't necessarily like talking about myself. And then over on the end here is Phil O'Brien. Phil is from Johnson Roberts. That is the architect. He's here to answer any questions you might have on the design. And then next to him is Steve Kirby. Steve is from our project management group, Vertex, and they are the overseers. Our project management is something that we're required to do in a municipal building, to hire, and they oversee the project and make sure that it is proper by code. And they can, they can answer any questions on that. It's a pretty significant role. We look to them for guidance to make sure that we're doing everything right. And the whole point of having those now, the requirement of that is so that we don't run into some of the issues that we run into with the addition now, where a lot of the we've had water infiltration, insulation problems, and wiring issues that relate to the original building of it, that it wasn't built properly. So in this day and age, we have guidance now that makes sure that we are in the code from the get-go, and it's all included in the design. That's a very important piece of all of this. So anyway, they're both here to answer any questions that we have. Would you like to go ahead?
I'm happy to go ahead.
Carolyn's going to take us through a PowerPoint.
So I'm Carolyn Coffey. This is my second time around on the Town Hall Building Committee of the 4 that we have had studying this problem since 2007. There was one that looked just at Old Town Hall in 2007. Then the financial crisis hit, and so that didn't go anywhere. In 2014, another committee was commissioned, and they looked at both buildings, determined that actually the annex was in worse shape than this building, came up with a plan, but then the needs of the town changed when the senior center became available and the recreation department moved over behind the library. So those plans were tabled, and another building committee was put together in 2016. They brought a plan to town meeting in 2018. That plan passed with about 75% of the vote. But as Jack mentioned, it then did not pass at the ballot. The financing for it did not pass at the ballot by about 30 votes. As a result, the town hired a number of engineers to come in and do an in-depth study of the building as is, so that we could see exactly what would be involved in a full-scale renovation, so we could compare that to a new plan. Upon looking at that, the selectmen then commissioned the town, this committee, to do, as Jack said, a renovation of this building and a rebuild there. Some of the critical needs of the town, of the building that were identified, not least of which was the fact that our town government has outgrown the space. There's not enough office space. There's not enough meeting space. All of the systems in the building, the HVAC, the electrical, and the plumbing need to be upgraded over there and replaced over here. We still have knob and tube wiring in this building. There's no fire suppression system in this building. You can see all of the technological upgrades that have happened since 1928, when this building was last renovated, are just running along pipes. That we have permanent extension cords on the floor so that we can have adequate lighting in here, which is not exactly scenic for a beautiful historic building like this. So upgrading all of the systems. The building needs a new roof. This building is not fully accessible. There's rot and water damage, as was mentioned, because when the annex was built, there wasn't appropriate flashing put in over the windows. So for decades now, water has been leaking in. The bathrooms are vintage in both buildings. We have the 1980s version there and the 1920s version in here. All needs to be fixed. There's a chimney on the side of the building, which is separated from the building and has a crack in it. There's asbestos that needs to be, do I need to go on? There's a lot of problems in the building. So the 2018 committee was charged with studying all the options for what we could do with a town hall. And we looked at every available parcel of land that the town owned and analyzed it for the possibility of putting a brand new town hall building on it. We also looked at this piece of property, thinking that perhaps we could renovate this building, build a new building next door. We seriously considered building a new building right behind the library in the field back there. Every site that we looked at that was owned by the town was either wetlands, didn't have enough space to accommodate the square footage that was needed for the offices and the parking that would be required. Or it was there was one place we looked, there was going to be a greenfield site where we would have to bring in all the utilities, create all the roads and everything, and it was deemed to be too expensive and would have been difficult to access. We also looked at all of the commercially available space at that time to see if any of those buildings up on 3A, for example, might be appropriate for a town hall building. And each time we debated, discussed, and finally determined that the best option was to do a renovation of this building and a rebuild of the annex. So when the select board reconstituted another building committee in 2019, that was the charge, was to do the restore and rebuild. So when we first got started, we looked again at what the programmatic needs of the town were, whose offices were in this building, whose offices should be in this building, how much space they needed, which offices were most visited by the public and therefore should be most accessible, and evaluated all of those things and made sure that we were going to meet the needs of the town and provide what the select board asked for, which was a safe, flexible, functional, and accessible building that could last for decades to come. Tucker now will go through the plans that we came up with to try and meet all of those needs.
Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for coming out. As Carolyn said, I'm Tucker. I'm a lifetime resident, and I'm really happy and proud to be on this committee. And I want to talk to you about what we came up with, right, based on the charges that Carolyn just laid out to you. So when we approached this project, right, we were saying like there's kind of three main areas we needed to talk about. We need to talk about the exterior, right? We need to talk about the interior of the building we're in right now. And we need to talk about the interior of the annex we're proposing. So I'm first going to talk to you about the exterior, and we'll walk through this. So this is our building that we're proposing right here. We spent a lot of time designing it. We spent a lot of time working with our architect, making sure that it looked right. And what we meant by that is we wanted it to look fitting on the common, right? We have an invaluable resource here in our common that we use all the time. We love, it's probably one of the community's greatest assets. And we thought if we're going to redo the building, it should at least be fitting. But when we consulted with the Department of Interior, you can see up there, I think the words they use are, it should be complementary, but subservient to existing historical structures. So that was kind of the approach we took, right? Make it fitting, but make it less grand, bring it down from what we have here, because we want to really showcase this gorgeous historic relic that we have on the. So that's the design of what we have, right? What it's going to look like from what we're proposing. Can you go to the next slide? And here it is just from the siding. One of the other things we really wanted to do with the exterior of this building is we wanted to make it accessible as well, right? The existing building we have now has quite a few accessibility issues for anyone with any form of mobility challenges, right? So one of the things we did, you can see here, we created single entrances, right? So everyone will be coming into the building through the same door. Everyone's going to be on an equal playing field. We did a lot of discussion, making sure that we had enough handicap parking spots, that they were in the right places, right? That the building, if it's going to be a public building, is accessible to kind of all the members of the public regardless. So it'll be very, very much ADA compliant, unlike what it is today. And here's just a rendering of it from what is that, a west view?
It's the side, it's the main entrance.
The main entrance, right? So that would be what the main entrance of the building would look like if you were standing in the parking lot. Okay, so these are I just want to walk you through our floor plans. I don't want to bore anyone with them, but when we were contemplating the interior of the annex, right? One of the things that a lot of people, we got feedback on is it's kind of, as it exists, snaky, right? It has hallways that sort of lead to nowhere. It's a little hard to wander around. It's dark. The right department isn't always on like the ground level. So when we approached this, we said, why don't we make it so it has a really clear layout, right? A nice straight path that will run right this way, right? So we'll go right through straight to the parking lot, and we'll put kind of the main public facing departments right on the first floor in a central kind of circulation area, right? So when you come into town hall to do town business, the person you are looking for, you no longer have to go on a quest to find. They will be right there on the first floor, available to you right as you walk or wheel into the building. Talking about the main level of this building, right, the historic structure, one of our goals was we need to make this floor down here usable for multiple purposes, right? If we're gonna have this building, if we're gonna spend the money to restore it, let's make it so that the town can use it, right? So that the people of the town can use it. So what we've done here is, as Carolyn said, we will renovate this and fix some of the systems issues, all of the systems issues, some of the aesthetic issues. We won't have the chip paint, the floorboards won't be so squeaky, right? We'll fix those things. But we wanted to add some pretty significant improvements, two of which would be, we're gonna add bathrooms, right? So that would be right in that space back there. We're gonna add, I think it's 6 single stall bathrooms that will be available, yes, at events here, but we can make available when the town hall is closed, right? So that building will be very separate. We can close and lock the doors so that this could be open to the public for the farmers market. It can be open for the Strawberry Festival / the Arts Festival, right? So there'll now be public restrooms available to anything we want to put on the common, so that people can use them, so you don't have to, go home, or for the people who are lucky enough to have a friend who lives on the common to be like, hey, can I come over and use your bathroom, right? There will now be publicly available bathrooms. The other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put a caterer's kitchen in here, right? So that would be, I think where the concession stand is now. So what a caterer's kitchen will allow us to do is anyone who wants to rent this space, right? They will now be able to put on an event. They'll be able to heat stuff up, they can bring in food, they can have, whatever it is, an event after a church service, whether it be a wedding or a funeral, anything. People want to come to the town and have some form of party. People in the town want to do it here. We know from talking to people who work in town hall, members of the public come in asking if they can rent this space. It will be much easier to rent now. It will have a lot more facilities because it will have bathrooms and it will have a caterer's kitchen completely independent of the town government, right? So we can now rent it out. Not to mention all of the things that already do happen here will be significantly improved by having their own facilities. Oh, great, here's a great diagram. Sorry about before, I have terrible vision. Here's what I was explaining to you earlier. See this nice direct access that will go straight through the building, making all of the public departments available, right? Making it easy to find. So you'll have down here the town clerk, the treasurer collector, the building department, all kind of, so you need to pull a permit, whatever, come in to talk about whatever you need to with those departments. You don't have to go upstairs, you don't have to go down hallways, you don't have to have a half stairwell in the middle, right? It's all right there on the first floor. These are just some interior renderings I wanted to just walk you through so you could kind of like see the concept. It's always easier, right? So this is just kind of how our architects were able to render facing down at the main doors, right? This is kind of how it will flow. So rather than, there'll be no turns, nothing like that, centralized area here. Here's what we're proposing for windows, right? So really nice accessible windows, no going into little offices. I did an internship in town hall for a summer, right? I worked in the building department. You cannot, the planning department, you could not believe how many times someone comes in, it's like, am I in the right room? And you're like, no, you're not in the right room. You need to go out, up the stairs. And then it's like, well, can you just take me there? Now it'll be very nice. They'll have windows, they'll be labeled. It will be very clear. The other thing that will be nice about this, you can see it's much more open, it's a little brighter. It's a much nicer place to come into as a resident, which is a great feature. but it's a much better place to work, right? As we manage our town, we want to be able to attract good talent, right? We want to have people who are competent, know what they're doing, you know, have good employees here who keep the town running well. We want to have a building that's at least pleasant to be in, right? That's nice to be in. So that was another really nice added feature of making this a little better, both for residents and for staff. Now I'm going to the next one. And here you can see, this is just how we design kind of like the facilities almost, right? So nice centrally located elevator and stairwell now, right? Together, very easy to use, easy to find when you come in, right? Rather than being like, the stairwell is weirdly behind the planning department and the elevators over there, all here. And on the first level, we will pick up one conference or meeting space. So as we return to having meetings in person like we are tonight, we will need to have some meeting spaces for them to meet in. This will be one of our meeting spaces. Here's a very nice rendering of our stairwell, how it will look, just giving you an idea of kind of what the feel of the building will be like. The other thing that we did about this building, and I know this is a major concern, is we want this building to be around for a while, right? We don't want to build this and then rebuild it in 20 years. So one of the major accomplishments we have here is we made it so that none of the rooms are really fixed, right? If 25 years from now we say, we need a really different layout for the town government, it's not right anymore. Not that we foresee that happening, but if it does happen, we've made it so there are not many fixed structures besides the vaults, right? So right now, almost every wall is load bearing in the existing addition. So it's really hard to change anything, right? You're kind of stuck with the floor plan you have. We will now have it so that if the needs of the town change, we can change the building, right, as it exists by just moving some of the walls around, rather than having to be like, let's start over, let's talk about doing another building, right? So that will give this building really good longevity. And here's just showing you the second floor, right? So above us here, right, there'll be a lot of the non-public facing people, IT, HR, accounting, things like that for the town hall businesses. They'll be on the second floor here, so we are going to be continuing to use the offices up here. So we have all those filled, right? So the only thing that will be really public space will be down here. In that way, we'll have 2 meeting rooms upstairs, right? So we'll have a small one, and we'll have a medium-sized one, and then kind of over at Wilcott, we have our large one, right? So that will kind of give the town, sorry? And here, and where we are, we'll have another large one. That will give the town the ability to have multiple meetings going at the same time, and a room that's fitting for small meetings, medium ones, and large ones, right? So that will be that. And then just upstairs in the annex, that's where we have some of the other departments, town manager, engineering, stuff like that. This is our floor plans for the basement. We're going to be using that as well as we can to have, you know, all our mechanical storage, stuff like that. We're going to be adding an archivist office. That was something our town archivist brought up, is that there's not really a place for her, or if it becomes a him, for him or her to sit or to do the important work they do. So we will have an archivist office down there. We will have some storage for some of the stuff that we have. And there will be still dressing rooms and such available for the Dramatic Society to use, so we can continue to keep our beloved stage going, right? It's been going for 100 years. Let's get it going for another 100. And there will be a good amount of flex space down there, along with Safe Harbor is going to be down there as well, one of the organizations that we have in this building.
I'm Garrett Lubitz, member of the committee, and I have the good fortune of talking about the cost. Now you've seen what we get, we can talk about what it's going to cost. And to be honest, that's one of the questions that keeps coming up, and with the greatest frequency. Everybody looks at the design, they're happy with the design for the most part. Maybe we'll have some comments, tweaks, but the big question is, how much is it going to cost? And there it is. That's the number. Now this is a guaranteed maximum price. So when I say that's what it's going to cost, that's the most that it would cost. There are opportunities for savings in there. You'll see that there are contingencies that are built in. So to the extent that the contingencies are not eaten into, that money comes back to the town. There also are opportunities for additional savings based off of bids that have been received to date. There are opportunities for us to rebid some of those items. So there are possibilities for savings off of that, but as of today, that is the number that we view as the guaranteed maximum price. So a not to exceed number for this project. You'll see the construction costs are about $21.6 million. There's a contingency of about $1 million for the construction, and then soft costs, $900,000, owner's project manager, $830,000, design fees of approximately $1 million, and then soft cost contingencies of about $400,000. So that's the cost. You'll also see, you may have heard numbers over the past few years of what this project was going to cost. It has gone up. Every time we received an email with estimates, I wanted to close my eyes and not look at the numbers because I knew it was going up. And what you'll see on the right is what's happened to this market. These figures are based off of similar projects. They're from public schools that have been recently put out to bid in Massachusetts. It's not exactly apples to apples, but it is municipal construction in Massachusetts. And those last three boxes actually represent the last 3 years of price increases. So you'll see just how dramatic the price increases have been over the last 3 years, where we sort of were trending in line with just slightly above inflation to just, huge increases those last 3 years. So, the project, when we started looking at it, I think our early estimates were around $14 million, and you can see we're well above that today. And that's not due to design changes, it's just changes in the marketplace. All right, next slide. So now that we know what it's going to cost, the question then becomes, how do we pay for it, right? So we've been working on a financing plan, or I wouldn't say that we've been working on it, but we've been consulting with capital budget in the town on how we can pay for this project. And we've got a few different sources that we have. So we've got the total project cost. We also have some CPC funding that's been made available to us, $1 million. Maybe that number could increase at some point over the next couple of years, but as of today, that's $1 million that comes off the top. We've also received appropriations to date of $1.5 million. So we're left with funding that we need today of $23.3 million. The funding would need to be met with a bond issue, and that will be voted on the town election on May 13th. Now, one thing to just to be clear about is this is not an override. So this is debt that would roll off after we paid off the debt over a 30-year bond. So it would not necessarily be sticking around on everybody's tax bills for forever. It would roll off at a certain point. Initial construction for this project would be financed with a short-term debt. And at that point, we would convert it to a long-term bond after the construction is complete. That would likely happen in fiscal year 2026 with the first payment in 2027. Now the payments would decline every year as we're paying off the service on the loan. And one thing to keep in mind is that we do have some additional debt that's going to be rolling off of the budget in fiscal 24 with the Osgood School debt. So that's how we plan to pay for it and what the tax impact are. I think what a lot of people really want to know is, what does that mean for me, right? And this is a chart that's been prepared that is an estimate of what that actually means based off of the median home value in town. So this is the figure that would represent the funding for the town hall. That's the $452 per year based off of a median valuation of $993,000. This year, the less the debt service roll-off is for the Osgood. So right now, on the average home, it's $220 per year is going to fund the Osgood debt. That rolls off, leaving a net increase of $232 once those two things have been accounted.
And those are assessed values, not market values.
Yes, thanks.
Is
that the maximum GMP?
That's based off the maximum GMP.
Okay, so
yes.
we'll
So it will not exceed that amount. Correct. So notwithstanding the where we are today and the fees that we're looking at,
It is the recommendation of this committee to proceed with the project. We think it meets the needs of the town. This project is shovel ready. We spent many years looking at this project and we keep coming back to the same place. And we're now at a point where we have a project that's ready to go. The price is not going to get better. This is an opportunity to invest in the future of this town. Comes down to evaluation and what do we value about this town? Do we value this building? Do we value having a town hall in this spot? And if the answer to those questions are yes, then there's no choice but to invest in this building and to make the decision to go forward. Full renovation costs, they're just for a renovation of this building based off of estimates, so a renovation of the annex and this building, we estimate to be about $21 million. And so the delta between, being stuck with a building that is not sufficient for our needs, and you get so much more based off of a rebuild of the annex and a renovation of this building. That's our recommendation to move forward with the project. We don't have a backup plan at this point. So if we don't go forward with this project, there's nothing that sort of is waiting in the wings to take us to the next step. We'd be faced with a situation where another committee would have to be formed. We'd be back in the study phase, and we'd be back facing the same decision 3 years from now. So again, it is the recommendation of the committee to proceed with this project, and we hope we have your support at town meeting and at the election.
So at this point, we really want to open up to any questions. Justin, I don't know if there's anything online.
I don't know if anybody can handle that. No.
Okay, thank you. Carol?
On your plan, I must have missed it, because how are you getting into this building from out there?
Sure. You can show that slide again. I think one of the things that the architects have done very well is they've landscaped the sidewalks in such a way that they make them ADA compliant for both the new entrance of the new addition and the front addition.
No, I'm talking
Without-
about physical getting into the building. You're putting toilets back there.
No.
You're putting a kitchen back there.
The toilets are gonna be in the overhang there with a hallway. The foyer is gonna be the same. So you'll come in the, yeah.
Doesn't really show that.
you'll,
There's a sidewalk that comes around the front.
So this is the existing foyer.
Okay.
And then this red box is the overhang in the back of this room. So this room will essentially get slightly smaller up towards that overhang. And that's where the bathrooms will become. And then this will be the open.
So how are you going to get in from the front?
You have the same two front doors. You have the same two front doors that are, same locations, I should say, that they are today. And you would come into that same lobby. The lobby would be slightly smaller because the stairs are being redone, code compliant stairs. Right now, we have non-code compliant stairs out there. And you would come right in through, and right through a set of doors, in, through, straight through.
there'll be a hall.
What, how do you get into
So in off hours, where the building needs to be secured and locked, it would be locked from this point. This set of doors could remain open so that the toilets could be accessible. And the stairway door.
Why do you want that open and accessible, if you have a kitchen there that you don't want problems with?
Well, this will be locked. This can be locked. The whole idea is to open up the building to the community when the community has events on the common.
Thank you all, you and your predecessors, for the incredible amount of work that has been done, not only over the years. And while all of us may have difference of opinion as to architecture or layout or whatever, I think this is the best plan I've seen of all the plans that have been submitted. So I not only encourage you to continue to push forward for this, I will vote for it. And even though when I vote for the bond issue, my taxes are going to be significant, that's okay. It's worth doing it. There are two iconic parts of Cohasset. One is the common in this building and the other buildings around it. The other is the harbor, which some of you may know I'm been involved. The one question I have you looked at asbestos?
Yes.
Have you determined there is no asbestos issue?
No, there's a abatement that has to be, we do have to perform abatement work, yes.
You do? Yes. You do have asbestos and you will be dealing, that's in the cause.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Lee, did you have a question?
Lee, quick question. The interest on this project, over 20, over 30 years, how much is the interest?
Did you hear that?
I did, and I don't have a figure. I understand from the finance director that she intends to structure it with even principal payments, so the interest will decline every year as the amount of the loan goes by, but I don't think that's been added up. I don't know the answer.
Not even an estimate?
We'll provide an estimate, we'll provide an estimate.
Monday
night? Yeah.
Okay.
One of the early charts there said that this price was guaranteed. Who's guaranteeing this?
So, just a year ago at town meeting, we asked the town for some funds, $200,000 to hire a CM at risk. That's a construction manager at risk. They are like the builders. We bring them in, and the state law allows them to negotiate all of the prices. This is separate from a bid bill. Mark will probably explain.
Yeah, so this is, it's called a guaranteed maximum price, and we have hired a construction manager, Commodore Builders, to be our builder. They are contractually own that price to deliver the project, assuming no changes to the project, no upgrades, no people want to add a third floor, a fourth floor. Those are changes, right? If somebody wants to make upgrades, that's different, right? But as the building is designed, as it's put together here, it with all the scope that is included in that, that's the guaranteed maximum price.
So if inflation kicks up again?
No, they own the inflation. They own the contract.
One more question. How many people work in town hall?
Anybody know that?
40?
30-ish probably?
Yeah, about 40.
40? Thank you.
So just following up on the term you used, so that you said they own it. So well, when I looked at the budget,
People
it was like,
identify themselves because it's a public meeting.
oh, sorry, Mary Jo Larson. When I looked at the budget, I really didn't understand the term owners, cost. I mean, it was, when you said they own it, is that what you meant? That's.
So it's a contract. It's like any, like you said, you engage in a contract with somebody. So when we signed the GMP, guaranteed maximum price with Commodore Builders, they would contractually own obligation to us for that guaranteed maximum price.
So that was that line item, Mark?
Which I just want to make sure.
Oh, the owner's project manager.
So-
Okay, that's Vertex.
So owner's project manager is Vertex, which is our hired owner's project manager. So state law for municipal projects over
1.5 million.
1.5 million require us to hire an owner's project manager. Whether we want to or not, we have to do that by state law.
We look out for the interests of the owner, because in any municipality, people are on the committee, or people that are in town hall, they all have their own job. Our job is to watch the design, during design, and then the construction during the contractor during construction.
So they were the first order of business that we had at assembling this committee, was engaging with a number of companies. We had about 10 companies that provided proposals to us, and through the financial portion and the interview process, we selected Vertex.
Like,
You said that this is not an override, correct?
Correct.
correct, yeah.
When did something like this not become an override? Because historically, we've always had two different types of overrides. There's been the operational budget override, which is something that Hingham just passed, which goes into your taxes forever. And then there's the debt exclusion override, which was like for the schools that we passed, which was going away as soon as the project was finished. So now we have completely eliminated the debt exclusion override, and we just say, this money's coming out of the air. Because you know, like when you do something like the $30 million that was passed for the water projects, that's an enterprise fund. So that can't be considered an override because an enterprise fund, the enterprise fund has to do everything through its costs and its customers paying for it. But with debt exclusion overrides, that's always been something that's over 2.5 that people have to vote on as an override.
You're absolutely right in the sense that it is outside of the operating budget and outside of Prop 2.5. I just think it's a nomenclature thing where override is associated with the operating budget and therefore can increase 2.5% ad infinitum, where a debt exclusion is just a debt exclusion. It just doesn't have the word override after it. That's my understanding. It's a debt exclusion and it's just debt. So it's just a nomenclature thing, but you described it exactly.
No, but I mean, it's always been considered an override because you're voting for something on top of your taxes.
I've never considered it an override.
No,
That's,
but
yeah.
it's not an override because it doesn't increase with the operating budget.
Well, no, because it's a debt exclusion, but it still increases your taxes by 2.5% until
Yeah,
it's over.
I just mean it doesn't increase anything.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Kevin Hines, 7 Howard Road. Not being too familiar with this, I just had a question because you ran through some of the features of it in your postcard handout. Can you speak to the design of the roof? Is there any provision within the design for photovoltaic or solar energy production from this roof that you would be putting as a part of the renovation and or the rebuild?
So we looked at that during the process and the layout of the roof, the configuration, the direction, and the size of the roof. The photovoltaics weren't really viable for us here with this layout. We did spend an exceptional amount of time looking at geothermal wells that would be on the property here, even potentially in the common, under the ground in the common. We went through that for several months, looking through geothermal, and there was not a long-term cost benefit for the town. There was a significant upfront cost that the project was going to incur, and there wasn't even a neutral payout until around almost 30 years, which it became a moot point at that point because much of the system was going to need to be replaced at 30 years. So it became a moot point. And so we did look at energy respectful options, those photovoltaic and the geothermal. Geothermal had more potential, but proofing it all out, spending months doing that, it was not a viable option for us.
Okay, appreciate that. Can you explain any of the existing energy design features that the renovation or building will introduce? Probably best articulate.
So, the energy code is going to require that the building is going to have to be much more energy efficient than it has been, and that is true for the most part for your addition. There isn't much anyway in the energy code that requires you to do really any insulation in this existing building. That being said, we are doing everything that we can in this existing building in terms of energy efficient systems and so forth, and that all of the mechanical and electrical systems will all be high efficiency. In addition to that, we'll also be replacing all of the windows in this building as part of the project, and we're also putting a new roof on this building, and we're going to add insulation in the roof as well. Adding insulation in the walls in a historic building is complicated in a historic building because really the best way to do it would be to strip off all of the siding on the outside of the building and all the trim, everything that makes this building beautiful in order to get that insulation on the outside. That's really the best way to do it. You could also do it from the inside, but it also means that all this beautiful interior finish has to be removed as well. But in either case, you can create, because old buildings like this leak a little bit, And when you add insulation in them, you can create condensation problems, especially in a space like this that can hold a couple of hundred people. You can create quite a condensation problem, and that all makes its way through the walls. And if it's warm in here with the 200 people in it and it's cold outside, you could have that water condensing back, that water vapor that we're all breathing out, and from the kitchen and from the toilets, it makes its way into the walls and recondenses when it hits that cold spot, and then you end up with rot inside the building. So we're not doing that, but we are doing everything that we can inside this building, and then we're obviously going to insulate the heck out of the addition. So between those two things, we're going to tighten the thing up basically as much as we can.
And then just to sort of add to that, part of the philosophy of, it's a preservation, right? So in accordance with the Department of the Interior's, we're trying to disturb as little of the historic building as possible and retain its historic values. Like he said, we're not trying to rip everything apart and make it to what we would be building in current standards.
So how will it be heated? Just like a follow up on that. You mentioned energy efficient systems. How is it currently heated? How will it be heated after this renovation, and speak to the efficiency of that? Will it put us in a better space just by simply looking at the heating bill? But what is the system that's designed and part of this budget right here?
It's a natural gas,
So we're going to stick with that for the most part. But a lot of the heating is going to come from electricity with a variable frequency flow. It's basically it's like the grown-up version or the commercial version of a split system. You probably hear about heat pumps all the time, and about how there's energy rebates and so forth for you to change over to heat pumps in your house. We're basically using a commercial version of the heat pump system in this building. One of the reasons that we looked at geothermal, as Mark mentioned earlier, to try to take advantage of the ground source in order to be able to use that as a heat sink in the summertime, and pull a little bit of latent heat out of the ground, which stays above 50 degrees in the winter, so that you're not trying to heat up your outdoor air from 0. We're basically taking advantage of 50, and then we only have to get between 50 and
that was
70.
tabled. That's not an option. So I heard air source heat pumps?
Air source.
And natural gas, is that what I heard?
Natural gas is a backup, basically, but VRF, electric, is basically what's going to run the building.
David Robb, 39 Beechwood Street. I was on the first two committees in 2018 and 2014, and I'll direct my comments to the board because it is a public meeting. But I think that's a great question regarding the energy of the building, and I can tell you from all the studies that were done between the building code analysis, the electrical analysis, the plumbing, the heating, and everything like that, there was an energy study done on both buildings a few years ago. I believe it was around 2018, and I can sum it up in one sentence for all the citizens of Cohasset. It said that the old part of town hall is heating the Cohasset Common. So anything we do here to update this building vis-a-vis windows, roof, energy efficient systems, it is only going to help, and it's only going to save the town in their bills going forward, because everything is so porous in here. In the wintertime, this space cannot be used for anything in the middle of February, it's too cold, and in the middle of the summer, they have to bring in fans and units to try and use it in the middle of July and August. So I just wanted to couple that from the previous studies that were done.
Thank you, David. Any other questions, Lee?
Lou Jenkins again. A quick question on how many additional parking spaces are we gaining? I didn't hear. How long will it take to do this project?
The parking spots will remain the same number of count. It will be a different configuration. There will be no less parking spots. We'll be maximizing the use of the spots along the drive on the way coming in. The drive will be reconfigured. The semicircular are out front where the mailboxes and the town drop box will not be out front. They'll be on an island in the middle, still accessible for a drive through. What was the second part of the question? How long? Roughly, it's a 16-month construction duration.
Lee?
Mr. Jenkins, talking about parking now, you're having the same number of parking, but you're increasing the staff. So where are the people going to park who are going to want to use this building? Because this is the major problem we have downtown. We have no parking space. We're putting in a lot of commercial property downtown and apartments, and there's absolutely no parking. So how can we have events here with no parking when we also are in competition with 3 churches who have events at the same time?
Well, I mean, we can put a parking deck out on the common if we want, but it's up to us to manage these resources, right? It's a timing of events, right? So it's the church utilizes the town parking lot when on Sundays when the town hall is not in business, right? The churches are operational mostly at hours when the town hall is not conducting business. So the town has made steps to maximize parking in the area by the one-way roads here around the common, creating the parking lane on one side of the road. But we have to respect the wetlands and the preserve out back, so we can't essentially just create more parking out back.
No, but we're putting in more space for meetings. So meetings will not typically be during the day when the churches aren't having events.
No, they'd be at night like this when there's, when the town, so the town hall is not, the staff isn't here, the staff is gone, right? So we've got meeting space here, there's parking out there now to support all of us here that are in this room, and meetings that could be conducted. Well, I mean, we can have this argument, but I mean.
No, but I'm just saying, this is one problem that it seems no one seems to want to address in town. This has been an issue for as long as I can remember from here. And, you can have a typical, there was a dinner at the church next door a couple of weeks ago. So if the church next door is having a dinner, you're having 2 meetings in here, and the church across the street is having another function. What do people do? Hire a bus and park at the music service?
Gentleman sitting down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dan Darby, 12 Base Lane. I think the pandemic and technology has let the genie out of the bottle with respect to the amount of office space you think you need in the annex. Remote work. We've seen it for the last couple of years. That train's left the station. Town hall employees are increasingly going to work remotely. And very few young people, far more technologically able than myself, are ever going to go to town hall to do anything. They can do everything online. And if they can't, 10 years from now, they're sure going to be able to do it. So I think the premise for the square footage in the annex, the town hall employees needs to be looked at again. Because it's not necessary. I imagine 10 years from now, you probably see 90% of the town hall employees working very industriously from home or remote. That's the way, the train's like the station. It's not going to, you're going to put that genie back in the bottle. It's moving down the track. And what I'm afraid of, the figures based upon pre-COVID assumptions are no longer valid.
Thank you. Anybody want to touch on that?
I mean, I would say that's a matter of opinion, right? We've been charged by the select board. The select board has asked us to do this. There has not been a change to that charge. We've been continuing
And all
to.
the employees are back in the building now.
The employees are back in the building. The building contains vital records. Those vital records, I assure you don't want your vital records on the kitchen table of town staff, right? The building department handling building permits and inspections are still going to be here. People still need to come in and conduct that business.
Less and less frequently as time goes by. I have 30-something children that live elsewhere, grew up in the town, and they said to me, Dad, I'll never go to town hall where I live. I can do anything I want. 10 years from now, that's certainly going to be the case. Now, I understand the charge you got from the select board since it was pre-COVID. Okay? The world has shifted since then in a lot of different ways, and one of the ways is that remote work has become more popular, and that's not going away. Especially as technology improves, AI gives us more ability to do things from different locations. You look at the MBTA thing in the club the other day, they have like 7 or 8 of their highly paid executives haven't been in the state for years. Okay? People
What did
work
Healy do
remotely.
in response to that?
Yeah, well, I know, but that's not gonna change, okay? Remote work is.
Well, she made a change, so.
Dave?
Dave Brock, 39 Beefwood Street. I think it is something that was looked at with this, because this committee did happen through COVID. And as far as employees with the town hall, there's 2 things I'd like to say on it. It reminds me back when the library was created, when it moved from South Main Street to where its current place is. That was around 1996 or so, and the internet had just come into play. And at town meeting at that time, we had heard that because the internet had come in, that there's going to be no need for books anymore, and that we're not going to need the space for the library to run the programs and things that they are. Well, the library moved from South Main Street to where it is now on Ridley Road, and it's one of the great civic institutions, not only in this community, but on the South Shore. And there are also books there, and the programs that they run are second to none for everyone from age 8 to 80. As far as the employees of Town Hall, unlike other businesses and commercial places that there are, there's a number of not only the vital records, but you saw the vault that is there, that you have to have the money that is there collected by the town. You have to have all the birth records, the marriage records, the death records that are kept here in the vault. And that vault is sealed so that if there was a fire and the whole building collapsed, that vault would still be there. It's built to the Secretary of State's code. And as far as the employees of Town Hall, while they did temporarily move when we had COVID, they're all coming back here. The meetings will be here. And I don't mean to be hyperbolic or sarcastic in any way, because I think it is a good question. But our town clerk and our town treasurer, they're not going to be hanging out at Starbucks to collect your money. They're not in the gig economy, and they're not a consultant that can work like that. They have to have a space, and our town government is here, and that's where it is. The state is the same way. Even though people work from home with the state, all of your public-facing things are still there. The registry of motor vehicles is still there, even you can do a number of things online. It hasn't gone away, even though there are ways to do things a little bit easier. So for all those reasons, I would say I don't see much of the drop in headcount being at home because it was only a special situation during COVID. Thank you.
Yes.
Alex Quinas, during the 16 months of construction, where will the workers be working from home remotely, as they have in the past during the so-called pandemic, or are you going to rent trailers for them? And if you're going to rent trailers, is the cost built into the total? So you are going to rent trailers?
So we're gonna secure a small space in town rental to put the most forward-facing things. There'll be certain departments that'll be on a rotating schedule for services. So if you're looking for vital records, you may have to go on a Tuesday or a Thursday or something. So there'd be a rotating schedule there to accommodate those departments that need to be interact with the public. We would spread employees throughout town, other municipal buildings temporarily. And there would obviously be some that would be on a rotations to work remotely at various times. And the cost to move in and out and rental is included in the budget. The numbers that we've provided is our complete project budget. The construction is only a portion of that. It's the major portion of it, but it's only a portion of it.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, Kevin Hankin, 7 Hall Road. 2 questions. The first is, are there going to be backup power systems as a part of this construction and design? And the second is, how will the exterior of the building be illuminated, perhaps? Or showcased?
Okay, so I'll take that. We don't have any plans to light the building up or anything at night, shining on the building itself. We will have parking lot lighting, and we will have lighting on the doors and so forth, so that you can find your way around Whether or not you decide you want to leave those lights on is really a policy decision. We have them so that they'll turn on when it gets dark at night and then shut off by a time clock, so those can be set. And it typically would end up being something like a half an hour after the last meeting is scheduled. Back up again.
Clear, a $22 million new building on the town common, a showcase location with a brand new exterior and interior renovation won't be illuminated in any way to showcase it.
If you're talking about lights that sit down on the lawn and shine at the building, no.
Top-down lights that maybe highlight some facets of the exterior of the building in a low wattage way that's still dark skies compliant, but shows the beauty of the building even at night?
That is not currently in plan. Your second question was, actually, your first question was about emergency generation, and we will have an emergency generator that will power the entire building that sits next to the rear parking lot.
And that will be powered by what?
That's gas.
And that was, the generator was aspect of the project that was presented to the select board. And the select board asked us to include a full building generator for this building.
Yes.
Are there any other, gentlemen?
Yes, good afternoon, Paul Curran, Chief Justice. I just want to echo and thank you guys for all the hard work. This is a great spirited debate. I do see this as progress. I mean, it's a $20 million progress. I'd love to see Cohasset actually do something new, and this is great. I do want to, however, just to inform everybody as far as the schools go. You know, there's 45, we're talking about 45 employees here that should have a good place to work. I agree that it's going to bring in some good help, that people want to have a good environment to work with. But I just also want to remind that 800 to 1,000 kids are in our school systems, and our school systems are not up to par at all. So I would like to see our schools be done first. I think we're kind of going backwards in the sense where we're looking at 45 people as a town hall, and we need schools and we need public safety. So those are the things I'm considering. I do appreciate all your hard work. I'm going to actually vote for this to come along because I think it is progress. But I also hope that we have the same enthusiasm when it comes to building a new high school, middle school, because that school is in desperate need of help. And the heating and air conditioning doesn't work. The building's outdated. So with all this, I'm hoping that we can get this through. But I'm also hoping that we can really look at a public safety way of building along with the schools. But thank you guys for all you do.
Just to sort of echo those comments there, right? It's a trend that Cohasset has not put money into their capital investments, their buildings, right? So this project is ready to go. This is a project that's been talked about for a number of years. The sooner we get this going and the sooner we get this off the dime and we stop having to be burdened with this. If we kick this can down the road again, this is going to collide again because the problems aren't going to go away. They're not going to magically disappear. And they're going to collide with the schools again. They're going to collide with the public safety again, right? The reality is those projects are years away from having a shovel in the ground. There isn't even a committee in town that's been assembled to look at the public safety yet, right? The schools are in the early infancy. They're still trying to get into the MSBA. So there's still a process there. We've been at this for almost 4 years now, right? So just this group, not to mention the previous iterations of it. So it takes time. These municipal projects, I build buildings every day, and this is a slow-moving aircraft carrier. It doesn't turn fast. It doesn't respond to an easy change in direction, right? Because you have to go through town meetings, you have to go through ballot election. We only get these bites of the apple once, maybe twice if we're lucky during the course of a calendar year. So it's really inefficient in a sense, the process, but nonetheless, it's the process that all municipal buildings are going to be up against. So the sooner we get going on this, the sooner it will be behind us.
I would just like to echo the gratitude that everyone is expressing, and I think it's important to conceive of this as not a building for 45 employees. I mean, how many committees do we have in this town? How many volunteers do we have in this town? When we volunteer for committees, we're in and out of this building all the time, as you have been, because you need the records, you need to meet with people who are responsible for making decisions or providing technical expertise. So this, when I think of this town hall and what happens here, it's the center of the community. I mean, count the number of people that are volunteering here. They're in and out of this facility all the time. So don't think of it as 45 people going to be in a $21 million building. It's a very active, functional space for all of us. So I just wanted to mention that. I mean, it extends into the entire community. So, like the library, I thought it was a great analogy. It's a community center.
Thank you.
Diane Kennedy, I just want to add to our form of government. It's state law that we conduct our business in the public and in public buildings. So we don't have the luxury of getting a building committee and going down and meeting at Starbucks. And it would be a lot easier on all of our wallets if that was the case. But we're required by law, and that I don't see changing. I think municipal government moves slow. I think it's a little bit more slow blowing at the state level.
Thank you. Zach?
I'd just like to say that we're going to spend $25 million in new buildings and this building. But look at how the maintenance in this town is appalling. How could the town allow this kind of a situation to exist? And what are you going to do? Are you going to spend $25 million on these wonderful new buildings and then just leave them alone in 20 years and 15 years? You're looking at something like this.
Well, I think we can all appreciate how nice Wilcox Commons is. Wilcox Commons is a great building that the town has. It's a great facility. It's our facility that we rely on in, emergency conditions. Warming center, cooling center. That's our building. That's the best building that we have in the town. It's our only building that we can rely on from a function standpoint, right? And so this building can be that too. This building should be the building that people should come to in an emergency situation when power is out in the city, in the town. That's why there's been a generator put in. It has the option to be open to the community and be a building for the community. And, this is hard to fix. This is not easy to fix, but if we fix it and we have a good starting base, we can maintain it like we are doing with Wilcox.
Anything online, Justin?
Should we do tours?
Yes.
No.
No.
Then
Paul?
Paul Carlson, 82 Millwright Farm. Can we get copies of the slides in either paper form or electronic form?
They'll be posted on the town website and Justin can, what?
They'll be posted tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Before 1 p.m.
Yeah. So we, if anybody's interested, we'd like to offer some tours, break in a couple of groups if you'd like to, just walk you through some of the problem areas that we see and talk about some of the upgrades. If anybody's interested, I think, Justin, you're going to run one of them?
I'm actually going to run the virtual part for our folks.
Okay.
So, yep.
All right.
David.
David going to do one?
And if more people are interested,
Tucker will do one? Okay. So if you're interested, David here and Tucker here are happy to walk. You have to gavel out.
So this is the inner basement?
This is the dressing rooms down here. And the plays go back to the early 1900s. And actually Humphrey Bogart was one of the actors that actually acted on this stage. When they used to have a acting troupe.
These are just various places to store stuff?
Oh, they're dressing rooms. And you can come in here and you can probably see it better here. This is
You got?
You can come in here and see, like, the piping and everything will have to be done. But this is one of the dressing rooms where they all sit, they have the actors' lights here that they put on their makeup and stuff like that.
What is it on, which was called Actors Row up there?
Yes.
The building up there was where all the actors stayed.
the cameraman.
Follow me, we're gonna go right down here quick first, and then we'll go.
Then what's gonna be, or we're gonna head back this way?
Yeah.
But what in the big redesign, are they?
They'll be
keep
just the rooms and
systems?
just refurbish them, and then redo all the systems, the electrical, the light, and that. We'll do a quick one down here, and then we'll come back up around the stage. But I just want to show you the exciting electrical stuff here. Come on over here. If you come over here, with the electrical. Really don't want to do that.
It's all, yeah,
There it is. There's the fuses.
Yeah.
You can see you've got the.
it's all,
They get the fuses, and then they put a.
Oh, wow.
And they put a few extra here, so when one of them goes, they can redo
they
it.
have
So
redone some of them.
yeah, they have redone some of them, but
But it's all the old
this is
wiring.
all you have old, and then
My house was the same way.
and then in between you've got not tubing as far as
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Yeah, in
Yeah.
some places. So this is all the stuff. I will. Well, we can get around.
You know
it.
what though? Thankfully, it's pretty dry down here.
Yes, it is. You can take a quick look in here. That's the current systems of it, where they've got the. These are the heating and cooling down there.
Go. What's that?
The original jails were down here.
Jails for what?
Well, this is a nice warm
For the
room.
prisoners.
This is just the.
People got arrested.
This is a nice warm room down here.
Wait, is that why it's so called ghosts in
The
here?
jails are down here. The jail cells.
I'll show them. Follow me.
This must be all stuff for plays and stuff.
Yeah, it adds up. If you can just watch yourself as you follow me, I got the light on. These in here are the original, one of the original town jails. And you can see there's still the bed here.
Oh, yeah.
And so at the time when the town hall was built, when they put these jails in, they were mainly used for like vagrants and things. If they came through town,
sure.
because people would come through town and then if they didn't move on, they would
So
keep
there
them
was one
here.
here,
Can
one
you
there.
look in here?
For the drunks.
Yep, exactly.
The ones that couldn't hold their liquor.
Okay, well, follow me, we'll go back the other way.
I assume they're going to kind of refurbish all this down here.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta get a lot of this stuff out of
It's
here.
so cool.
This old phone, they could find a way.
Does it still work?
No, it's not.
Remember that old phone that was the radio?
Uh-huh. Oh,
Another
yeah.
old phone. This is a real one, I think, Connor. Maybe not. All right, we're coming.
It's okay, take your time.
Looks like there's a lot of props down here.
So is this an old vault right here?
Yes, the vaults go from the
Let me see.
basement to the first floor, second floor, right up. They're built one on top of each other.
Well, they're heavy as hell, right?
Yeah, and they're built so that, again, same thing, if the building were to fall down, those would be there. Now, those are old ones that they don't, they keep open because they're so old, they don't have a way to get out of them if you get in them. So, yeah. Check them out.
And you wouldn't be safe with stuff in there because they're not fireproof.
Yeah, they're not fireproof either.
Interesting. Okay.
Whoa.
Old vault, bud. All right, I'll follow you back
What do
there.
they store in there?
No, nothing. Well, they used to store the
They used to store money in town records, that was the thing, just watch your step.
Wow, this thing is really hurting. That corner over there.
Yeah. One of the things we did back in 2008 was run, the roof had gutters that were residential and not commercial.
Oh, yeah.
And so what would happen is the water would sheet right off, come back, and it would come in the basement. So they resized the gutters, the commercial moved it out, redid the drainage. And you wouldn't believe it, but it really made a huge difference.
Yeah, get it away from the
And,
building.
yeah, and it got the velocity out there, and then, of course, unplugged the drainage, so there's not, the old, we also did a structural study of the old town hall, and believe it or not, because of the construction, even with the bricks and everything, it was in perfect structural condition for its age. Yeah, watch my head. Well, come on down here.
This is all the asbestos stuff that needs to be,
Yeah.
Probably on the pipes.
Dad, look, it's a cool, it's an old typewriter.
Old typewriter?
Really. A medium.
Here, I'll get you up the stage.
Tree crown.
all right, let's follow. This is part of that new, that's the new wing. Okay, right on up here. Oh, huh?
I could stay and look at those nails for all day. Cool.
They had done some previous asbestos mitigation years ago. Got a lot of it out, but when they do the pipes, that's gonna be the big stuff. But you can see here, like with the door, the frame of the door, you can see the outside from here. You've got the ceiling where it's open, just to seal the place up so it can get, it'll keep in the heat and keep out the cold. We're gonna go on the stage here to the back, 'cause I wanna show you one thing on the other side. And plus, you're just gonna be careful when you follow me.
One of the things they don't have here is handrails.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
This door automatically closes, so just hold on to it as you come up.
I noticed
Just
that they
follow
don't have
me.
handrails on any of
You
these
can see,
stairs.
I won't have you go over here, but you can just see what the stage looks like from the behind here. You've got all the rigging up there.
That was me. Look at all this staging and stuff.
We're not gonna go up here because of the stairs, but one thing I wanted to show you over here was the wiring and the telecommunications from the other building. You can see that it pokes through this wall and goes all the way up and hangs. And that's because, as I said before, the buildings were made before computers, the internet, or ADA compliance. So that's how they did the wiring after the fact. If you come in here, you can see that.
And there's no sprinkler system, no fire suppression system?
No, there is a fire curtain. So if there's a fire on the stage, the fire curtain comes down. Fire curtains have been around since forever, so and it keeps the fire from getting to the people.
So the town has insurance, right, for this?
Yes, they do. Yep.
I bet that's not cheap.
No.
Come here, and I can bring you to the other side quickly if you want.
So this counterweight for the curtain?
You've never been on a stage before, so.
How'd you guys do?
Good. Is the other side open? We can go.
You're good? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That I noticed.
Thanks.
That I noticed. No handrails.
We have the other side too, but I would only show you two things up there on the other side. The new side, yeah. Follow me if I can get in there. So in the new construction, the doors here will go straight through to where the opening will come. It'll be a hallway.
Yep.
Because this is all, you kind of snake around here with the bathrooms. The elevator's out.
Whoa, look how old that is.
Oh yeah, we'll go up and around. Why not? Because we can come back to the foyer. I'll show you.
Oh, I've been in here.
So this is why these are so steep, because there's actually a whole level here to connect it to the other side. So it's really a 3-story building with only 2 floors. So we paid for a 3-story building and only got 2.
Have you been in here, Connor?
No. Kit Kats.
So the town manager's office, they got
Yeah, I've been in
one,
there.
2, 3, 4 employees in one little
I feel
spot.
like the ceiling in there is like
Yeah.
this too.
Let's have an adventure. Just watch your step.
And how many elevators will there be on the?
Just one.
Just one.
Oh, good, this is open. I'll show you this. This here, this room here, that air conditioner has to run pretty much 24/7, 365, because all of the IT and the computer stuff and the phone lines to keep it cool, because otherwise it would melt down in here. So if that 15-year-old AC unit goes down, then so does all the computer systems and the phone lines in the town hall. And so this window stays a crack open all the time, and it drains out the window and right down the side. And that's what I mean, is the technological stuff to get it so you'd have just a typical IT room, you know, to protect it. Now, these rooms, each one of these rooms, these are not movable walls because you have steel trusses that hold up the building. So when we come out here, you're going to see it because they're actually cut down this hallway. Yep. You ready to come on out? We'll just turn off this light and shut the door. And if you just want to shut that door behind you.
So what's this room called?
That's the IT room, and it's actually a little conference room.
Yeah.
Now here you can see the cut-ins, why you have that odd shape. These are the steel trusses that they cut, so that every one of these is a weight-bearing wall with the steel. And then you've got all the old town offices up here. Which they... It is, it is. This room right here, I can't remember in the plans what they're gonna do with it, but this has a, I think they were either gonna do the cable room or what, I can't remember what they were gonna do with this room. But this actually used to be the selectmen's room, when they just had the town hall before the other one. This is where they used to have selectmen's meetings, right here. And this was the public space that you'd have, you know, the 5 or 3 or 5 sitting there, and then they would come in here. And then of course there'd be a view of the
So
common.
just, I see where we are.
Yep.
That's the church.
Yeah, second Congo, yeah.
And we are above
The foyer, we're above the foyer. Yeah.
of that room we were in, the
Yep.
auditorium room. Okay. Wow.
And we'll be on our way down, and you can see the bathrooms if you want.
Look at the old push. Do you see the old switches
and
right
then-
there? To turn things on and off?
Yeah, you can see the bathroom here. If you use this one, you better make sure that the water thing doesn't fall on your head when you use it. And you've got, you know, old piping and everything from who knows when. And then we'll come back down here. You can take a quick look if you want.
Bathroom, but.
And when you come in here, you can see, open that second, see the wall there? It's got yeah, you've got exposed wall, you've got to fix.
Right here.
Whoa. Does this shit work?
Maybe the battery's gone?
No, it's at 76%.
Okay. Alright, you wanna keep moving?
Probably in some time. So
Oh, you think?
And we're coming back down.
No, it's been doing this for a while.
Okay.
And as we come down to the foyer, you can probably feel the coldness from the outside as you're coming down here. And then, you know, all this needs to be replastered, wood redone. The stairs are going to be redone so that these are obviously not code compliant stairs. They were built.
So, did I hear it was like a 17 or 18 month build?
Yeah, I didn't catch how long it was going to be out, but well, this is more restoration, and then the other side, they'll dig, core it, and and then up it goes, so.
Yeah, because they're
It's,
gonna redo that.
yeah, they did drop it. So, and then brings it back to here, so. Yeah, that's pretty.
That's helpful. Thank you so much.